Welcome to Programming with Python session 7. Before we jump on to the actual content, I would like to walk you through the website. Okay. This is a website. You can go through this website. You'll understand what we are, who we are, and what we offer, permission, and also the list of courses that we offer. Okay. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can use one of these channels for getting in touch with us. Most importantly, all the sessions that have been taken up so far on Python have been um, updated here, and when you click on each session, you can download the resources, and those resources would be for your future reference. Using those resources, you can master the concepts and you can practice them again. All the code that we have written, all the concepts that we have discussed, all that material would be available for you to freely download it and make use of it. So don't miss this opportunity, and you keep watching this resources page on the website always, and the next live session date and time will be uploaded here. And by the end of this session, you can also see the material that we cover in session 6 shared with you, and you can download it. All right, with that said, let us jump on to today's session. Give me a second, I will share it again for you. Well, we are going to primarily focus on the print patterns in today's session. Let us have a look at the print pattern that is expected. For an input of 1, the output expected is just 1 printed on the screen. For an input of 3, the output expected is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 printed on the same line. For an input of 4, the output expected is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And please make a note that all the output is printed on the same line, and each output is separated by a single space. Whenever you have to write some code for any kind of print patterns, all that is important before you even begin coding is to understand the pattern. All right. Now, if you look at this pattern, input is just 4, and you need to print 1, 2, 3, 4, and you know how to print 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's not enough, right? You need to repeat printing 1, 2, 3, 4 for 4 times, which is again the input number of times, right? This is a general observation. And then before we look at the actual code, I will directly jump on to the editor and we can write some code for that. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to open a file where I can type in the source code. I have my P drive where I have Python programs available, and this is my file that I would like to start with. So, just write down the pattern over here for you to quickly reference. For an input of 4, this is the output expected. For now, I'm just adding a comment over there so that it won't execute, that line will not throw an error when I execute the program. All right. The very first thing is to read the n value as integer. So you can prompt the user to enter the value of n. Well, assume n reads 4 as input. What next? if you look at this pattern, you know very well how to print this, right? To print this pattern, what is what you need? You need a loop, right? So if you are going to print something, you can just say you need to start from 1, remember, because range starts with 0, but you need to explicitly override the default values of start. Then you need to go up to 4 if the input is 4, but the end value is exclusive, so you need to just mention n plus 1, correct? And this is an incrementing trend, so you need to mention explicitly as plus 1 or anything as such. All right, and you can just go ahead and print what to print. Print the value of I, correct? And remember, print by default moves the cursor to the next line, but you are supposed to print all this on the same line. Hence, you can override the default value of n to single space. What does this code do? Okay, what does this code do if the input is 4? It just prints 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because I starts with 1, 1 is printed. It goes to 2, 2 is printed. It goes to 3, 3 is printed. It goes to 4, 4 less than 5 is true, 4 is printed. Then it goes to 5, 5 less than 6 is true, which is printed. Then it becomes a 6, 6 less than 6 is false. Sorry, 4 less than 5 is true, it prints 4. 5 less than 5 is false, and it stops over there. So the output for this would be to print just 1, 2, 3, 4 only once, correct? But that's not what we expect. This is how I'm breaking down the problem into pieces, and you can achieve this final output. Okay, now since you know how to print 1, 2, 3, 4, all the remaining work is nothing but the repetition of the work that you have already done. Yes or no? So you need to do the same job for 4 times, meaning you need to repeat the same job for n number of times, for which you can use another loop, jj in range, yes, and range starts with 0, and yeah, make sure these are properly now indented and run this. Input is 4, and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is expected output for an input of 4. This piece of code is able to produce this print pattern. So we have broken down this into pieces. We have identified the repeated pattern. Then we have focused only on achieving sub portion of the output. And once we know that, we kept it into another loop so that this entire thing will be repeated multiple times based on n value. That's all we are done. As and when you practice more and more such problems, then you will easily understand that you need two loops in such cases. Okay, in general, there are different ways to even achieve this with single loop also, but for now, let us assume that you need two loops because you see two patterns. One pattern is increasing pattern, of course, yes. The other pattern is the same thing which repeats for n number of times. So outer loop takes for repeating these portions. Yes, outer loop takes care of repeating these patterns, and the inner loop takes care of just producing these numbers one after the other. And this repeats every time. And once the inner loop continues, again II starts with 1. That is where you see the output again starting from, right? However, based on your experience, if you don't like this, generally the outer loop will be for II and the inner loop will be JJ. It doesn't matter really, and you just keep printing JJ. So as and when you gain experience, you will automatically think about this and you will be able to accommodate that. Otherwise, there is no harm at all by calling or using the variable jj for the outer loop and using the variable ii for the inner loop. Absolutely fine. What if the input is 9? So what happens when the input is 9? It has to produce this set for 9 times. This is once, second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, seventh time, eighth time, and ninth time. And this is what the outer loop takes care of, right? It makes sure whatever job you are doing internally, that will be repeated for a number of times. The inner loop takes care of producing numbers from 1 to n. So we have achieved our objective. Keep this in mind, that you have to just spend enough time to understand the pattern so that writing the code is not so difficult. All right. Now, if you are allowed to use string related operations, then you can probably do the same thing here, right? I have been showing you two different ways of getting producing the output, right? You take a print string, which is empty for now, and then you can repeat the same thing, no? So what to do now? Indentation is very important, and instead of printing, you just keep building up the print string by converting the JJ value and adding a space. Finally, print PS by excluding the last character, which is extra space. Input is 4. Sorry, there is a mistake over here. Sorry about that. You read the input and yeah, why is that? What is the pattern you are seeing over there? Okay, because it is repeating 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, right? So all that you need is you just need um yeah, so one thing you can do is just print ps as it is, but I'll show you what happens. That extra space is what you will get additionally. So you see 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 and 1 2 3 4. So see, this is extra space I was talking about, whereas in this case you don't get that extra space. Make sense? So it's all up to you. And of course, in this case also extra space will come, because before this loop quits, it will print this extra space. So just to make this behavior similar to that, you can leave it as it is, or you can print PS by excluding the last character. Okay, it's up to you, but it depends on how what the interviewer has asked for you. If you have to strictly eliminate the last character, you have to do a string manipulation here by putting -1 after colon. Otherwise, you can just leave it as it is so that this would be in sync with this. All right, let's move on. Now, this is what the expected pattern is, and let us see the code, the same code that I have just written down. You read the input of n as integer and then start with the empty print string. And since the output has to start from 1, your range function starts from 1, and n is inclusive as per the output, but in range n is exclusive. So you mention n plus 1 as a end value, and you need an internal loop which always starts with 1 and goes up to n plus 1, meaning n plus 1 being exclusive, n would be the inclusive value. And you keep building up the print string by converting the integer jj into string and also appending single space, so that you keep building that print string. Finally, you just print the print string by excluding the last space. So you can use single colon. I have used double colon. That's the reason the string was reversed. But if you use single colon, you can just exclude the last single character and you can print the rest of the string. So using these 6 lines of code, you can produce the output as expected. If the interviewer doesn't allow you to use any string related operations, then you can purely depend on direct print statements. So it's the same thing, the range would be the same, but every time you keep printing JJ value and also you override the default value of n, which is a new line character with a single space, so that space will be printed. All right. So this is how you will be calling print function multiple times, whereas if you are allowed to use string related operations, you can use print only once, right? That is a key difference between these two approaches. All right, let's move on to the next pattern. The next pattern is when the input is 1, output is also 1. Yeah, right, simple. When the input is 3, the output is something like this. You need to print 3 rows and each row is going to have 3 values. And what are your observations? Every row starts with 1 and goes up to the user given input 3. So every row starts from 1 and goes up to n in general. And how many rows are there? Again, the number of rows is also equal to n, right? That is the observation. If the input is 4, you could guess the output now, right? The output is 1, 2, 3, 4. And each row starts with 1 and goes up to n inclusive, and there would be how many rows? N number of rows again. All right, do you want to code this quickly? Yes, of course. I'll be showing you both the approaches, right? So you would have got some idea by now. So if you want to go with print string and all, yes, you can do that. And the what you are going to print is important, right? So you print JJ value. JJ always starts from 1, which is good. That means each row starts with 1 and it goes up to n, because n plus 1 is exclusive. So it goes up to n, which is very good. And keep in mind that after you complete that, make sure you also add a new line character to your print string. Make sense? Because then only you can generate multiple lines of output. Correct? And that's all, right? If input is 4, right? If input is 4, the outer loop runs for 4 times. II value 0, II value 1, II value 2, II value 3, 4 times. And that's what we expect, 4 rows. So it allows all internal things, meaning all these statements to execute 4 times. 4 iterations will go. Each iteration again, JJ will start generating the number starting from 1 up to n. And that's what you keep converting into string and assigning to print string. And once you are done with the inner loop, you make sure you add a new line character to print string, and finally print string only once. Let us try this out quickly. Input is 4 and this is what you see. This is a square formatted output, right? All right. Now, what if I have to do the same without using print string? I am not supposed to use any string related functions such as what I have shown you now. So you can comment out this code, you can uncomment this code. As I said, um, it would be the same approach, right? And after you print JJ, make sure you use one empty print so that the cursor will move to the next line. And that's all. Sorry about that. We are talking about a pattern shown like this to be printed. For example, the comment symbols. Assume that this is starting of your first column of your output where 1 is there. So this is what you expect. So if you run this code with an input of 4, you see the same input, right? And here you once again you see that extra new line character here, but you don't see it here. Again, if you want to even address that, you can do that as well by simply printing every character in the string except the last one, so that the last one is only the new line character that has been appended extra. So I can go ahead and run this, and you see this. Now this also produces same what as the other approach. So it all depends. And if you are doing something on the competitive programming, then these things may not be accepted. These extra spaces or extra lines, then you need to be more and more stricter when you're writing the code. But otherwise, this piece of code, the way that you are writing the code now, is good enough, right? All right. So this is how you can generate an output like this. Let's move on. If you want to once again quickly look at the code, this is how it is. You read the n value and start with print string, empty print string. You run up to n plus 1. Yeah. J also same. Yeah, it's up to you whether you want to start with 1 and go up to n minus 1, n plus 1, or you just go up to n. Anything is fine. Okay. But J, the inner loop has to always start from 1 because every output line starts with 1. Keep that in mind. Okay. So this is a code, and finally you use print function only once. By excluding the last single character, the new line character, you print everything that is built up within the print string. Using these 7 lines of code, you can achieve this. And if you are not allowed to use string related operations, this is the approach. Same thing as I said, it's the same range function, right? And instead of building up the print string, you immediately print jj value and make sure the cursor remains on the same line, because the inner loop always takes care of printing one line of output. This is something that you can blindly remember. The more and more inner loop you are at, it takes care of the more granular level of output, right? So here you have only 2 loops. So the inner loop takes care of printing 1 row of output. All right. And the outer loop takes care of producing n number of lines of output. All right. Now we are not done yet, because after printing one line of output, you have to make sure you come to the new line. So you just use a blank print statement. And that's all. Using these 5 lines of code, you can achieve this all. Well, let's move on to the next pattern. The next pattern is something like this. If the input is 1, output is A alphabet. If the input is 3, the output is ABC, ABC, ABC. You need to catch the pattern over here, okay? If the input is 4, the output is ABCD repeated 4 times. All right. So how does this input, integer input, dictate the way the output has to be produced, right? So when the input is 4, it indicates that you need to print first 4 capital alphabets. And you need to repeat that for 4 times. This is how the input 4 dictates the pattern of the output. All right. Again, before we jump onto the code, I want to show you a couple of things. This is about input is integer, but you are supposed to produce character out. So always keep it in mind that there is something called Unicode characters. Every character is internally encoded as an integer, right? So if capital A has and Unicode value of 65. Of course, ASCII code is also same because so it's not an executable statement, but I by mistake pressed enter. That's why you're seeing that error. Okay, now there is some special function in Python, and what I'm asking it is to print the character associated with an integer 65, and it immediately says it's capital A. As I said, capital A has a Unicode or ASCII code as 65. So you are printing the corresponding character to a given integer. So by now you can guess what would be 66. 66 would be obviously capital B because A and B are next to each other and the integers 65 and 66 are next to each other. So in the ASCII sheet, all the capital letters would be next to each other and all the lowercase letters would be next to each other. And similarly, the lowercase a, if at all you have to print something, then its ASCII value is 97. You just remember few of the ASCII values of the Unicode character codes. That is enough for you. Okay. So 90 is a code for capital Z, and 122 is lowercase. Okay. This is how we are now going to use this CHR, okay, CHR to produce alphabets from integers. 65 is what I have used in my statement, but 65 is an integer. But what is output I produced? I have produced a character really, right? So this is how you can generate characters. And not only that, for example, you want to know a character associated with 35, which is nothing but pound symbol, right? Every symbol that you see on the screen, along with alphabets and of course the digits also, every character has some Unicode associated with it, or ASCII code associated with it. In Python, we should always treat it as Unicode. All right. So this is a preamble. And now, how do we achieve this? Right? So look at this pattern carefully. It's ABC, 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 very much similar to your integer. If the input is 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. While you are able to achieve 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay? Sorry. How is this output different than producing the integer? All that you have to do is you need to use that CHR, and this is where you just read the n value and you start with empty print string and you go up to 3, right? And you need two loops. One is to repeat it for a number of times. The inner loop is to generate the alphabets, correct? So you see, it is nothing but the CHR of 65 plus J, because how does this work, right? JJ starts with a 0 because the range function you didn't mention the start value. You mentioned only end value. So by default, range function starts with 0. It starts generating numerics with 0, okay, numbers with from 0. So JJ would be 0. In that case, what you are doing in that iteration, you are adding 0 to 65. By adding 0 to 65, you will be getting 65 only. And you are converting that 65 into alphabet, which is nothing but capital A. After that capital A has been added to your print string, you are adding one extra space to that, one space to that. Next inner loop repeats. JJ now would become 1. You get into the body of this. CHR of 65 plus JJ is 1. 65 plus 1 is 66. So you convert 66 into character, which is capital B. That is how you are appending capital B to your print string. After which you are also adding one space to that. Next iteration, JJ becomes 3. All right. So 65 plus 3 is 68. Sorry, J becomes 2. 65 plus 2 is 67. And 67 refers to capital C. So already your print string has A space, B space. Now you're adding C to that. And then A space to that. Make sense? Next, JJ becomes 3 and the inner loop will be coming out because the condition is false. So far you have stored A space, B space, C space in print string. Now you will jump onto the outer loop. Outer loop you have completed II value with 0. That iteration you have completed. Next, n is 3, right? So II becomes 1. Still you are within the range. So again, the control gets into the inner loop. JJ starts executing iterations once again. Again, JJ starts with 0. 65 plus 0 is again capital A. Capital A will be appended to A space, B space, C space that you already have within print string. This is how it repeats, and finally you print all the print string except the last space character so that you can produce the expected output. These are the 6 statements that you can use to produce this output. If you're not allowed to use any string related operations, then how do we do? It's the same thing, right? You can go with the same range function as I said. Instead of keeping on building up the print string, you just immediately print whatever 65 plus jj is, so that A will be produced, B will be produced, C will be produced, D will be produced as and when jj progresses with its iterations. And make sure you keep remain on the same line, so end is controlled with a single character. And once you are done, you can see all the expected output produced. Using these 4 lines of code also, you can achieve this. So let us quickly go and write that down. So as you have seen, um, if you try 65 plus 2, you will be getting capital C, because 65 is anyways referring to A, capital A, and you are adding 2 more to that. So B and C. So the character would be C. This is what I have been doing, but in the form of variable, right? So if you say 65 plus 10, the 10th alphabet is what you will get, right? We means it is something like this, no? JJ is 2, and I print 65 plus JJ, right? Which is nothing but the letter C. That is how JJ keeps incrementing. And what if I try 65 plus 0? In the first iteration, that's what happens, no? Sorry, it's not cap, it's CHR 65 plus 0. Oh my god, sorry about that. 65 plus 0, which would be capital A only, right? CHR 65 plus 1, which is capital B. This is how you be able to generate alphabets in order. 65 plus 2, as you already see, it is C. CHR 65 plus 3, it is capital D. All right. Now let's quickly jump on to the code and code it and quickly execute it. So the output expected now is ABC, ABC, ABC. Everything on the same line, but you read integer input. Okay, if you have to start constructing the print string, you can do that, of course. You can go up to n every time, and this is CHR 65 plus whatever you have in JJ, and every time you keep adding a space. No new line character at all, because everything has to be produced on the same line. That's all. Run this code with an input of 5. You can see A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E, second time, A, B, C, D, E third time, A, B, C, D, E fourth time, and A, B, C, D, E fifth time. This is what our expectation is, right? All right, you run this with an input of 3. You can see A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. First 3 characters repeated 3 times with 1 space in between. All right. What if I have to achieve this without using print string? So you can comment out this, you can uncomment this, and it's the same thing as I said. This also you go up to n every time and print not JJ, because if you print JJ it prints integers. Print 64 plus JJ. This is how you can keep generating the numbers, and there is no new line at all. So you just go ahead and run this for an same input of 3, you can see the same output coming out. So you can either use string version of it, or you can use non-string version of it. Both are all the same. Well, let us move on to the next pattern. Input is 1, output is just A. Input is 3, output is ABC, but repeated 3 times on 3 different lines. I'm not going to spend any time on this. I'm pretty sure you will know how to write this code based on different patterns that you've already seen, right? So I'm right away jumping onto the code. You read the n value, and let us start with the empty print string and just move ahead with n, and then it's the same thing, right? Keeps adding 65 to JJ and convert it into its equivalent character by using chr function. And here, make sure you add a new line character just before you go to the next outer iteration. Why? As I said, inner loop takes care of producing one line of output every time. So in one line of output, there is no new line character, but space is there. So the statement that you are using within the inner loop keeps adding spaces. And finally, before you jump on to the next iteration, that means you have completed printing everything within the current line. So now you have to jump on to the next line. So add a new line character to your print string. Finally, you just print string by excluding the last extra new line character that is added to your string. Make sense? Using these 7 lines of code, you can produce this out. If you are not allowed to use any string related operations, then you can right away print every time using same range functions, but you need two loops, right? And print 65 plus JJ every time. Make sure you remain on the same line with a single space of separation. And once you are done with one line of output, make sure you move to the next line. And using these 5 lines of code, you can produce this out. Well, let's move on to the next pattern. If the input is 1, output is 1. Well, if the input is 3, the output is 111, 222, 333. This is interesting, right? Look at the pattern, and understand what you are supposed to print. If the input is 4, the output is 1 printed 4 times, 2 printed 4 times, 3 printed 4 times, and 4 printed 4 times. Finally, make sure you produce the output on the same line. All right. So as I said, it is very important for you to understand the expected pattern. So assume the input is 3, the expected output is what? 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, right? This is expected output. Look at the pattern carefully and what are your observations. Once you start printing one, print it for a number of times. Before you did not complete printing one completely, don't move on to the next number. Only after you have completely printed one for whatever number of times you're supposed to, which is n times in this case, then only jump on to the next number. And once you start with a new number, make sure you print that one also for n number of times. Then you jump onto the next new number and make sure you print that one also for n number of times. And if you have done this for n number of times, that means you have printed everything that is expected. You can stop over there. Make sense? So if the input is 3, there are three different categories you need to print, correct? So if there is some variable which will tell me in which iteration I am, it would be helpful. So what you can do is you read the n value, and in this case, the way the code is written right now, II value would be 0 initially, but what you can do is you can start from 1 and go up to n plus 1. Range of n, if it runs it will run n minus 1 times, because no, sorry, it starts with 0 and goes up to, yeah, n minus 1, right? So totally n times. But if you are starting from one time and going n minus 1 or n plus 1 also, it will be executing n times. So, right? All right. Now you start your inner loop and you have to print this three times. You have to print this three times, correct? So going up to a number of times makes sense, right? Because, but what to print is important for us. So what is it you want to print? What happens if you print JJ? Looking at the same piece of code, if you print JJ, what would be the output? JJ starts with 0, right? So 0 would be printed first. Then JJ becomes 1. 1 would be printed. JJ becomes 2. Still you are within the range. 2 will be printed. Then JJ becomes 3. You are out of scope. You are out of range. So you come out again. II now becomes 2. Keep that in mind. When II becomes 2, that means you have completely executed one set of output, right? You have achieved one set of output. So II is one that can tell you in which context you are, in which iteration you are. So instead of printing JJ, you just print II. For how many times? For n number of times. Because JJ starts from 0, it counts 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If the n value is 5. If the n value is 3, it goes up to 0, 1, 2 only. That means 3 times it will be printed. Makes sense? So let me go and execute this with an input of 3. As you see, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. Well, so how does this work? N value assumed is 3, and II, its value starts from 1. So II would be 1, and 1 less than 4 is true. It gets in. JJ starts with 0, right? And 0 less than 3 is true. So it has to go and get into the body and execute the body. II, what is the current value of II? It is 1. So 1 is printed. Then JJ becomes 1 from 0. Still you are within the range. Comes in, it prints out. II did not change, keep it in mind, because still you are in the process of executing the inner loop only. Hence II did not change, so II will be printing. It prints one more 1. Next, JJ becomes 2 from 1. 2 less than 3 is still true, so it has to execute the body. It prints 1 again. II has not changed yet. Then JJ becomes 3. 3 less than 3 is false. You are done with these iterations. Then you have to continue with the outer loop iteration. So now II from 1, it becomes 2. 2 less than 4 is true. Get it. JJ once again becomes a 0. 0 less than 3 is true. II is 2 already, so 2 is printed. JJ becomes 1, 2 is printed. JJ becomes 2, still condition is valid. One more 2 is printed. JJ becomes 3, condition false. You are done with this. Come out. Go to the next iteration. II becomes 3 now. 3 less than 4 is true. So you again get into the body of this. This entire thing is body of the outer fur. So it continues this iteration. JJ becomes 0 once again. So at that time II was 3. So 3 is printed. JJ becomes 1. Again 3 is printed. JJ becomes 2. 3 is once again printed. JJ becomes 3. 3 less than 3 is false. You come out. Now II becomes 4. 4 less than 4 is false. So you are done with the outer loop as well. You come out. By that time, you can see all this output produced. This is how this works, and you can see how this pattern is printed. If you are not allowed, if you are allowed to use string manipulation, yes, you can start doing the same, right? So you may get a doubt. Sometimes the range I'm using with n, sometimes I'm using with n, 1 and n plus 1. It all depends on what is convenient for you to while writing the code. Okay, keep that in mind always. So this is str of ii because you're printing ii every time, and that's all. 3, it's the same thing. Whether you use this or whether you use this approach, it's the same thing. Make sense? So this is how you can achieve this kind of output. And as you could guess, the next one is simple. You know what the next one would be. These are all square shaped print patterns, right? All that you need to do is you need to just move on to the next line. You know very well how to do this. Before you move on to the next iteration, make sure you add new line character to the print string. Run it. Input is 3 and you see. You run it one more time with an input of 9. Yes. All the first row 1, 2, 3, 4, all this is what you can see. Make sense? What if I had to achieve this in the other approach? Comment out this code, uncomment this code, and make sure you use empty print so that cursor will be moved to the next line. There's a simple change. Input is 9. You can see all the output produced. And interestingly, when you run this approach, as I told, you will be using print for multiple times. You can see some processing time being taken over there. There is some slowness, correct? Whereas in this approach, slowness won't be shown because print is done only once, right? However, sorry about that. However, the processing time would be probably would be one and the same, but again, generally the output functions would be slower. So as long as you're allowed to use string related operations, you can go with this approach. All right. That is again, if you are really working on some time intensive code development, then all these things make sense, especially the competitive programming. And otherwise, it's okay for now to deal with this. All right. Let's move on to the next pattern. Yeah, it's the same code that I've been showing you, right? You're able to do all this now, right? And if you're not supposed to use any strings, this is what it is, right? Using 4 lines of code, you can do this way. If you want to go with print string, you can go with this way. All right, let's move on to the next pattern. I have already covered this. It's just moving, splitting the output onto multiple lines. This is also what I have already covered, so I'm not going to spend much time on this. All that subtle difference is that you need to just add a new line character before you continue with the outer loop iteration. Make sense? And you print only once because you use print string build mechanism. Using these 7 lines of code, you can produce an output. If not, you can probably use print function multiple times using nested loops. And every time you print ii, and make sure you remain on the same line until you complete printing everything on the same line, and finally move on to the next. Using these 5 lines of code also, we can produce this output. All right, let's move on to the next pattern. Input is 1, output is A. Input is 3, output is A, B, 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 C, C, C. Interesting, no? And I'm sure you know how to solve this. Spend some time on this. See if you can achieve this, right? So again, we have to come up with switcher function and make sure you in the first iteration you print only, you add only 0. Next you will add 1, next you will add 2, like that. So now I have changed this back to start from 0, this iteration, right? So that A will be coming out. How many times? For all the n number of times. Next B will be coming out. C will be coming out. That is how we have changed this. Sorry, this is not on the, okay, let me complete this and I'll come back. This is not on the fresh line. All the output has to be produced on the same line. So you can comment on this and you can run this. So the input is 3, for example, and you can see A, B, 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 and C, C, C. Make sense? All right. If you are supposed to use string operations, you can of course try that out. Okay, II starts with 0, so you can just keep adding the corresponding character of 65 plus I and keep adding the space, then move on to the new line and print. That's all. Input is 3. Sorry, I was using new line character. This is not what we require in this current expected output. No. So once again, I run this. You see, this and this are running the same. And of course, this is the next pattern. Of course, you know how to do that. So more and more exercises, more and more examples you see, you will automatically get the thought. Okay. So what if I do this? As you already see, after you produce one line of output, after you construct one line of output, move on to the new line. So that before you jump on to the next iteration, you make sure you come to the new line, and then once you print it, make sure you will exclude the last new line character and you can see the output produced on multiple lines. Here also it's the same story. You comment out this and you uncomment this and comment this as well. You can run this now. Since you are introducing new line characters in between, this is what it would be. And if your input is 5, for example, you can see all the 5 rows printed, and this is what it is. Make sense? So these all are square shaped outputs, right? This is also a square. Okay. So this is how you can generate such patterns. Perfect. Let's move on. And this is the same code that I already shown you. I'm not going to spend much time on this. I'm sure you are now able to understand the patterns and start writing the code on your own, right? All right. The next pattern, I know I have covered this, is to produce output on different lines. Yeah, no need to explain this. You already know. I have already shown the code. It's the same code, but the subtle difference is that you need to add the new line character before you jump on to the next iteration of the outer loop. As simple as that. Perfect. If you are not supposed to use string related operations, you can of course try this way. Right? You can print 65 plus I starts with 0. So first A will be printed for the number of times. And make sure you come to the new line and I becomes 1. You add 1 to 65 so that you will get character B and you repeat this for n times again. So B will be repeated for n times. Make sure you come to the new line and I in the next iteration becomes 2 and you add 2 to 65 so that it becomes 67. 65, 67 represents C, capital C, and print that for n number of times, 3 times. So C is printed 3 times. Next you come to the new line, and that's all you are done, because II becomes 4, 4 less than 3 is false. And we're done. By then you can see all output produced. Perfect. Let's move on to the next pattern. Input is 3, this is output. So far you have seen square shaped output patterns, right? And this is the first time you are seeing a right angle triangle, which is interesting, no? If the input is 4, the output has to be something like this. This is also right angle triangle. If the input is 5, this is also a right angle triangle. Of course, the height of the right angle triangle is increasing as the input increases, right? So what are your observations? Observation is very important, and it is a key to succeed with writing the code in print patterns. So spend enough time on this before you go ahead and start coding, right? What are your observations? Mainly when you are looking at the print patterns, you need to think about multiple things. The very first thing that you need to think, how many rows of output. Second thing you need to think of is how many columns of output. And is the number of columns same in each and every row? If it is, then generally it would be a square shaped output or rectangle shaped output. But in this case, that's not the case, right? In this pattern. And what are our other observations? Each row starts with what? Each row starts with 1. Well, and in the first row, there is only one output to be produced. In the second row, two output is to be produced, 2 digits to be produced. Third row, 3 digits to be produced. Fourth row, 4 digits. And the fifth row, 5 digits. If I had eighth row, and I now can assume I need to produce 8 digits of output. Make sense? These are the key observations. Each row starts with 1. Very important observation. And it's not the same number of digits that you need to produce on each and every row. That is how this constructs a triangle shape, but not a rectangle or square shape. Make sense? All right. Will we code this? Before we jump onto the code, let me just write down this output here. Format. Output format is this. 1, 2, and let us restrict our output to the case where input is given as 3. Yes, you read the input. Now, always remember the outer loop that we have been using, that controls what? Does it control the number of rows or number of columns? Output. Outer loop always controls the number of rows. Correct? Outer loop always controls the number of rows. Inner loop always controls the number of columns within the given row, right? That is how these have been working. These nested loops have been working in the print patterns especially, right? So you see every row has to start from 1. So it is good to start my outer loop, because outer loop is a row counter, no? So I can start from 1, but make sure you also use n plus 1 as your end value, so that if the input is 3, for sure this executes for 3 times, but not 2 times, 1 lesser. Okay. So if you are starting your range from 1, make sure you add the same difference to your end value, which is n plus 1. Make sense? So now you understand that II starts with 1 and goes up to n. Okay. What about JJ? So JJ is for columns, no? So JJ can go up to, say it starts from 1 because jj is what you're going to print finally. How many times? What if jj goes up to n or n plus 1? Think of this. What if jj goes up to n and you are going to print jj value every time? What kind of pattern will you get here? You will be getting, for an input of 3, you will be getting 1, 2, 3, because this loop executes for 3 times. You will be getting 1, 2, 3, 1 row. Second row also 1, 2, 3. Third row also 1, 2, 3. Okay, fine. What if I put ii here? I'll be getting 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. Correct? Instead, one observation is important here to get a thought of how to write this piece of code. First row, one output only. Second row, two outputs. Third row, 3 times of output. That means in each row, how much to be printed or what to be printed is controlled by inner loop, correct? This inner loop has to be controlled by the row number of times. So it could be ii plus 1. Why? I have started from 1. ii, when it is 1, I need to make sure this inner loop executes once. If I don't use ii plus 1, this won't execute for the first time. So when ii becomes 1, the very first iteration of the outer loop, 1 less than 4, true, get in. jj becomes 1 and jj will be compared against 2. 1 less than 2, true, go on print ii. ii is 1 at that point of time. 1 will be printed. jj becomes 2 now. 2 less than 2 is false. We're done. That means I have printed only one output in the first row. Go to the next row. Go to the next iteration. ii becomes 2. 2 less than 4, which is also true. Again start iterating in the inner loop. jj once again becomes 1. 1 less than 2 is true. Right? 1 less than, sorry, 1 less than 3, because ii already has become 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 1 less than 3 is true. 1 will be printed. Sorry, I should print jj actually. jj becomes 2. 2 less than 3 is true. I'll print jj, which is 2 now. jj becomes 3. 3 less than 3 is false. So I don't print, but I'll come to the new line. Next, what happens? The outer loop continues to iterate. ii now becomes 3. 3 less than 4 is true. So get in. jj again starts its iteration from 1. 1 less than 4. Yes, it is true. Print jj, which is 1. jj becomes 2. 2 less than 4, true. Print 2. jj becomes 3. 3 less than 4, true. Print 3. jj becomes 4. 4 less than 4, false. Come out. Go to the next line. Continue with the next iteration. ii becomes 4. 4 less than 4 is false. We are done. Come out. And there is no more code to execute. We are done. Let me run this. For an input of 3, you can see 1, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. I'm going to execute this once again for you for an input of 6. You see 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and finally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sense? All right. What if I have to achieve the same using print string? I'm supposed to use string operations. Comment this, uncomment this. Sorry about that. It's the same thing. ii start with 1, go up to n plus 1. jj start from 1 and go up to n plus 1. And convert the current value of jj into string. Also make sure you add a space. Just before you go to the next line or next iteration of outer loop, make sure you also add new line character. print all the constructed print string except the last character. Sorry, what did I do? There is some mistake I did in the indentation. Where is it here? Okay. Is it not commented out? Okay. Input is 6 again. And you can see the same output produced here as well for this approach as well. So two different approaches. You can see the right angle triangle being created. The shape of the output is right angle triangle. Well, let's move on to the same code if you want to really quickly check that. Right? You read input value, you start with empty string, you go up to n plus 1 since you started from 1. Okay. JJ starts from 1, goes up to II plus 1, which is very important. That is what controls the number of elements to be printed on each row. II is row count, no? So if II increases, obviously you'll be printing more and more elements on that row. If II is small, you'll be printing less number of rows. That is how less number of elements in that row. That is how you keep controlling by using II in your inner loop end value. Perfect. If you are not supposed to use any string operations, you can right away use print function using the same range call, right? This is a 5 lines of code to produce this out. Well, let's move on to the next pattern. Input is 3. This is output. This is also right angle triangle, but it is just rotated right angle triangle just because it is rotated on x-axis, right? So if the input is 4, the output is this. If the input is 5, this is the expected output. Observations. How many rows of output? Number 1. It is 5 rows of output for an input. 5. That means in general, if input is n, you need to produce n rows of output. Is the number of elements to be printed in each row same? No. Again, same story. First row 1 output, second row 2, third row 3 elements. That is how you need to proceed. So in general, if you are in ith row, you need to print only II number of elements. Each row starts with 1. Yes, another observation. And the one more observation is that on the first row, before you print 1, you need to also manage some spaces. You need to print some spaces only after which you can print 1. And when you switch to second row, the number of spaces to be printed before you start your actual output will be reduced. And you move to the third row of output. Before you start printing the actual output, you need to print lesser number of spaces as compared to the second row. Gradually, when you come to the last row of output, there is no need to print any spaces before you start your actual output. That means the number of spaces keeps decreasing from first row to the last row. By the time you reach the last row, number of spaces will become 0. These are the observations, and now we need to take care of handling the spaces, which is an extra work we are doing for the first time probably. So far we have been adding the spaces, but it was after you produced some output on that line. But this is the first time you are dealing with spaces even before printing any output on a given line. So that is a key difference between the earlier programs where you have been maintaining spaces anyways, but This is a different way of dealing with printing the spaces. All right. Having this understanding, let us move ahead with coding this. Before I move ahead with showing you the original code, this is how you are. Okay, first thing I'll just bring this to very close to the output that you see over here. Make sense? Okay, now you tell me if the input is 3, this is output expected, right? Now you tell me for an input of 3, on the first row, how many spaces I need to print? Okay, okay, first thing. For an input of 3, in the last row, how many spaces I need to print? 0, right? There are no spaces before I start in the output, correct? I have been asking how many spaces I need to print before I even start the very first output on that given row. So if the input is 3, there is no need to print any space. I can right away start the output. So the number of spaces to be printed is 0. What about second row? You see, this is this is one space, this is a second space. That means in the second row, I need to print 2 spaces before I start printing any of the output. What about the first row? 1 space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4 spaces. Make sense? So I have to print 4 spaces before I start printing any output on the first row. Make sense? And assume that the input is 4. So I'll just type in the output and then I will adjust that accordingly. Give me a minute. This is the expectation for an input of 4, correct? So now you tell me last row 0 spaces before I start printing the second row from the last, how many spaces? 2 spaces, no? See, you start output from here. Before that, how many spaces are there? 2 spaces. What about this? 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, correct? So this is 4 spaces. And what about this? You start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 spaces. Make sense? So how do I compute the number of spaces to be printed before I see? I print the output starting from first row left to right, always top to bottom, left to right. That is how I will be printing, right? So now you tell me before I even start printing some output, visible output, I need to first make sure I have printed some number of spaces, right? How many spaces? Is it always fixed? Not really, because for an input of 3, you need to print 4 spaces. For input of 4, you need to print 6 spaces. If it was 5, you can guess now. 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8 spaces would be coming if the input is 5. Make sense? So, is there something that you can derive from these facts? If the input is 4, you need to start with 6 spaces. Input is 3, you need to start with 4 spaces, right? And I'll also write it for 5. If input is 5, you need to start with 8 spaces. No? Okay, from this, is there anything that you can derive? Is it not 2 times of input minus 2? 2 times of 3, 6. 6 minus 2 is 4. 2 times of 4 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. 2 times of 5 is 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. Of course, yes. Otherwise, you can just say n minus 1 times 2. N minus 1 here is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. n minus 1 here is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, n minus 1 is 2 here, 2 times 2 is 4. This is how, this is very important for you to compute the number of spaces in such print patterns, because before even see, if you are printing the spaces after printing something, that would be easy for you to manage, and that is how we have been doing. But now that's a different story. Even you print something, you need to make sure you have already printed some spaces, and how many is important for us, so that you can maintain this shape or pattern in the output, in the final output that you produce. Your observation has already shown that last row, irrespective of the input, 0, no spaces required. From there onwards, it keeps on increasing by 2 spaces if you are moving to the top from bottom. So this is how you can compute the number of spaces. So if you have to deal with this, another important aspect here is, sorry, you have printed one row of output. By the time you come to the next row, how many spaces would be reduced? Always keep in mind that the number of spaces reduced between two consecutive rows from top to bottom is just 2. You see, here you have printed 6 spaces. Next time you have to print only 4 spaces. Next time you have to print only 2 spaces. Next time you need not print anything because 2 minus 2 is 0. So this is another fact. All right. So now what I can do is I can read the input, and I can also probably count the spaces, right? Count the spaces. Number of spaces is always dependent on the user input. So I already know how to compute that in this example, in this format. So if n is 4, 4 minus 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6. That is how I derive. And this is a formula I can apply, and that is what stored in spaces. All right. And now if the input is 3, I need to produce 3 lines of output. So output outer loop I need not disturb. Now I need to also print spaces. So the very first thing before I even produce any output is to print spaces. So what I'm going to do is, how many spaces? I have already computed the number of spaces. So I can print the number of spaces. So what I can do is I can keep adding this space to the print pattern. Then I can continue doing the same. And remember, the output is same as earlier, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, but only thing is there is an alignment of space that is a key difference. So once you have accommodated all the spaces, then you can start producing the output as earlier, and you can keep on appending. Make sense? And very much important. Once you have printed some number of spaces on a row, before you go to the next work, you make sure you have reduced the number of spaces by 2, so that next time in the iteration you will print 2 less number of spaces, so that you can see this pattern coming out. So two things I have modified, right? I have just computed the spaces. For that I have already explained you how to compute it based on the user input, and make sure every time you have accommodated the spaces, you have also reduced the spaces by 2. And I'm going to run this for you for an input of 3 for the first time. So I need to comment on this code, otherwise we'll get a comment. Run this. Input is 3. You see, we get that output in the same form. You try this with 6. How many spaces can you guess in the first row before I print any output? Since it is 6, 6 minus 1 is 5, 5 minus 2 is 10. 10 spaces, after which 1 will come. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is the input, 6 rows of output, and each row except the last row will be having some preceding spaces, and these spaces will be auto adjusted based on the code we have written. And the other thing that I want to really show you is you need not use a loop for this spaces stuff because you are maintaining the spaces using the string manipulation. What you can also do is you can simply add how many spaces tell me. It depends on the spaces, no? And I have already shown you the string repetition. A times 3 means A will be repeated 3 times. Now I'm repeating this space where this is space character for space number of times. So if the space is 4, the space will be repeated 4 times so that you'll be getting a big string of 4 spaces, and that is what I'm adding to print string. And then I will reduce the spaces to 2 less so that in the next row I can print only less number of spaces. This also works well so that I can avoid running one extra loop inside explicitly. 6 is the input and that is the same output you can get. Make sense? All right. And if you have to achieve this without using string, what will you do? How will you achieve that? So I'm going to comment out this and I'm going to uncomment this. Yep. Read the user input, compute the spaces. Spaces is n minus 1 times 2. Yes. And outer loop, nothing to change. But here you need to print the spaces first. How many depends on the spaces variable. Print what? Single space. Make sure you are on the same line. So end is equal to, don't use single space here, which is very important because you are managing the spaces by your own completely. So just to say end is empty string here. Make sense? And then before you further move on, make sure you reduce the spaces by 2 for the next row. And that's all. You know what kind of output this produces: 1 1 2 1 2 3. But before that you are already accommodating the spaces so you can get the pattern that you are looking at. Same 6 input I'm giving and you see it's the same thing, no? 1 1 2 1 2 3, same shape and all that stuff. This is how you can achieve these kind of print patterns by writing code like this. All right, let's move on. You can see the same piece of code here. Again, it's the same story as I was telling you, right? And using these 9 lines of code, you read the user input. Based on that, you start with empty string, print string, and also you count the number of spaces, which is n minus 1 times 2 or 2 times n minus 1, whatever it is, right? And then outer loop starts with 1 and goes up to n plus 1, and construct that many number of spaces, reduce the number of spaces for the next row by 2, and continue with your innermost loop jj, which starts from 1 and it just goes up to ii. If you stop at I, then you will be getting a triangle shape. If you go up to jj, sorry, if you go up to n, you will be getting a rectangle shape or square shape. That is a key, right? And make sure you come to the new line and print everything in the print string that you have constructed so far except the last new line character. And if you are not supposed to use strings, then you can do this way, right? This is what, it's the same thing. And interestingly, you see here in the for loop there is no a variable in the inner for loop. I'll give you the line numbers, then I can explain. On line number 4, you see for loop starts, for loop variable is underscore. It's not a variable really like iijj or something, right? This helps you. This is also another way of, you can use this perfectly. This is valid in Python because you are not using that loop variable anywhere within your loop, right? This just keeps your loop moving, iterating. So you can use this also. So what I can do for you to show this is inside this Yeah, this way. I can use underscore over here because I'm not using JJ here anywhere in its body, no. So I can use this. This is perfectly valid in Python. And I give 8 as input, and you can see all the rows, 8 rows printed, and all the spaces have been nicely printed before you produce the output. Make sense? Let's move on. So this is perfectly valid in Python. That's what I want to remind you, that when you use a for loop using range and all, you need not really use a variable. If you are using a variable inside the body, then you can use that. Otherwise, you can use something like underscore also. All right. And here also you are reducing the number of spaces by 2 before you jump on to the next row. And then you continue with the same inner loop. JJ, but it has to stop at II plus II exactly, so that you are writing II plus 5. Make sure remain in the same line until you complete all the output in that row. And once you complete all the output on that row, before you jump onto the new line, make sure you come to the new line. Using this 9 lines of code, you can achieve this. All right. Next pattern is another interesting one. If the input is 3, this is what you need to produce. If the input is 4, this is what you need to produce. Sorry about that. And if the input is 5, this is what you need to produce. What are your observations? Input is 5, 5 rows of output. Well, first row, 5 elements to be printed. Second row, 1 less, 4 rows only, 4 elements only. Third row, 3 elements only. Fourth row, 2 elements. Fifth row, 1 element. That means the number of elements to be printed is reducing from top to bottom. The other observation, each row starts with 1. Well, do I need to manage the spaces before I print anything in any row? Of course, yes. Before printing only, you need to manage the spaces, and you know that approach. So you need to manage the spaces. And now count the spaces. How many spaces in the first row? 0. Second, 2 spaces, right? So let me quickly print that pattern. Um, Input is 3. Therefore, at input of 3, this is what expected. 3 to 1. Sorry, let me understand this pattern. Oh, it is a increasing pattern. Okay, got it. So 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, and finally it is. This is how it is, right? This is a pattern. Perfect. Now look at it carefully. First row, how many spaces? 0 spaces. Second row, how many spaces? Second row, count it now. 1, 2, 2 spaces. So you see, the spaces is increasing, that's all. What about this? It starts from here, no? 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, right? So this is 4 spaces. That's all. You got the idea. So what to do now? Spaces is what to start with, because you start printing from top row to bottom, left to right. So to begin with, spaces is 0 because you are seeing spaces as 0. Let me delete this so that you won't get any confusion. You don't need this also for now. Spaces is 0. Then what? You print that many number of spaces, right? Then what to do? How is the spaces changing from one row to the next row? It is increasing, no? So you keep increasing the spaces by 2 every time, right? And then II is 1 for the first time. But if you start at 1, you will be printing only 1. So what you can do is you can start II from N, so that this makes more sense. Why? II is 3, so this executes for 3 times. That is how you see 3 out. II becomes, and you have to decrease this. Sorry about that. So N is 3, but next time II has to be 2. So you reduce it and the end point is 0. So what happens in the next iteration? II becomes 2, so that you will be printing only 2 elements here. Next II becomes 1, you will be printing only 1 element here. So this is how you can manage this, right? Let me run this for you. Input is 5. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and this is also one kind of right angle triangle, but it is inverted, rotated, or whatever you call it, right? So small tweaks. The key is to first understand, observe the pattern, and then derive the facts, accordingly write the code. As simple as that, right? And how do I achieve this prints with the print strings? Comment. And comment this. Yeah, spaces is 0, right? To begin with in this pattern. And this is, I have taken the decreasing trend so that it would be convenient for me to deal with the number of elements to be printed inside the loop, inner loop. It's up to you, doesn't matter whether you, this is only for counting purpose, but it also helps us to achieve the output in the way that we are looking at. Yeah. And remember, the number of spaces is increasing row by row from top to bottom. So I have increased the spaces. And rest of all is same. Yeah. Run this. Input is 6. Perfectly shaped out. All right. Let's move on to the next pattern. Next, okay, this is the same code. I am not going to spend any time. I have already shown you this code for this pattern just now, and I'm not going to spend any time on this. The next one is interesting. Input is 3. What is the difference? This is just a decreasing trend, remember, okay? Spaces and all is same, but it is just decreasing trend. Earlier it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, but now it is 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 1. Every row is decreasingly printed, decreasing trend. That's the only difference. For an input of 4, this is what you need to see as output. Just it is decreasing trend, and I'm pretty sure you can achieve this with a small tweak. You got a thought? Yes? No? All right. So how do we achieve this? So input is 3, for example. Expectation is this. That's why. Spaces, same thing. I'm not going to disturb anything on spaces. Then what? I need to start first row 3 rows. First row 3 elements. No, second row 2. So it is nothing but I may start from n minus I. I'll tell you why this is, because um, I can continue to do this for 3 times. For example, if the input is 3, this loop runs for 3 times. II would be initially 0. And I can run this loop up to n minus II. Okay. So, and you see, n II is n. JJ starts, JJ goes up to, JJ starts from 1. Okay. And it's a decreasing trend. You see that. So you have to put -1 over here, and this is your ending. Sorry, this should be your, sorry, wait for a second. The starting value is changing on each row, remember, okay? First row it is n minus II, so you can start with n minus II, because when I is 0, it would be 3. When I is 1, 3 minus 1 is 2. That is how it starts. But again, it has to go down to 1. So you need to put 0 as a end value. Make sense? And every time the spaces will be increased, and that's all. 5, you see, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 1. Make sense? So how did I achieve this? How did I get that thought? Okay, so you see, first thing, each row is not starting the same value. And first row is starting with n. So I can start the first value with n. But how can I do that? How do I make sure that second row starts with 2 or less? So IA is something that is increasing trend 0 to 0, 1, 2. If the input is 3, II will be 0, 1, and 2, right? So when I is 0, I needn't subtract anything. That's my starting value from n. So 3 minus 0 is 3, so I can start from 3. So that is what I'm doing. And it is a decreasing trend. I need to decrease by minus 1 every time in the inner loop. And I need to stop once I reach 1. So the end value is 0 because it is exclusive, right? And what happens when II becomes 1? N is still 3, 3 minus 1 is 2, and that is my starting value. What happens if II is 2? My next iteration, 3 minus 1, 3 minus 2 is 1, and that is where I start the iteration. Make sense? That is how I am managing the value of II. By subtracting it from N, I will come to know what is a value that I need to start the current row. That is a starting value and like it's a decreasing trend. So minus 1, and when did I stop? Every row stops at 1. That is another key difference. So that is why the end value has been mentioned as 0 over here. All right. Now, if you are not allowed to use this, you just comment this and you uncomment this and you tell me spaces would be 0 and this would be, it would be convenient for us to go with increasing trend now. And you have to print spaces, no doubt. And JJ, its a initial starting value is now relying upon n minus I. Okay, if I am in ith row, I should not start the value with I or n because every row is not starting the same value, right? It is the difference between the n value and ith value, and it is a decreasing trend. And I need to stop at 1 always. So put minus 1 in the step and put 0 in the end value. And every time you print J. We are done. Run it. Input is 6. Yes, perfect. All right. So this is how you can achieve this in different ways. And again, it's the same code that I have been showing you, right? The only difference is that you have to control the starting value of your inner loop so that it starts with n minus ii. So these are the key things. What happens if I subtract ii from n? So that as and when I keep on increasing on my rows, the starting value will be reducing, and that's what I want. That is how we have achieved this. Make sense? All right. The next one, interestingly, it's a diamond symbol this time. I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I give this to you as an exercise. Before I do that, I'll give you some tips. In fact, achieving this diamond is not so difficult if you have followed all the patterns so far. Yes, you heard it right. The key in writing the code for diamond is to break it properly. If you are able to break this properly, you would be able to solve this. So, how do you break that? Always keep in mind, always, whenever there is a diamond, you have to divide this horizontally once and vertically once so that you will have four partitions. Then, how to divide this horizontally? Always keep in mind that, always, always. The row having the most number of output elements has to go to the upper half. That means this is how you need to horizontally divide this. The row that has most number of elements in the output has to go to the upper half. That's what I do. And this is the row that has most number of elements. So I have put it on the upper half, and logically I have just drawn a line so that upper half. Now I have divided this into two pieces. This has completed my horizontal division. The second one, as I said, vertical division. How do I divide this vertically? Same story. When you're dividing this vertically also, the column that has highest number of elements in it has to go to the left side of the partition. This is how it is. The column that has highest number of elements is the middle one, no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's what. That goes to the left. Now you have to tackle this portion by portion. Now look at this portion. You already know how to write the code. You already know how to achieve this. Prepend each row with the spaces. You know how many spaces and all, how to compute and all. You know how to achieve this. That means you are now able to do the first portion. Don't you know how to achieve this? You very well know this also. Yes or no? So you know how to achieve this. If you are able to do both of these, you are done with this top triangle. Don't you know how to achieve this? We have written a code for this also, right? So now this portion also you know how to achieve this. We have written code. So diamond is nothing but bringing in, stitching together different pieces of code that we have written so far, and then club the code together to produce this diamond shape. That's all. No difficulty. It is as simple as that. Makes sense? But couple of things. So again, you have to start from first row, second row, third row, fourth row, and if you treat this as a fifth row, then you may face some difficulties. But for us to write the code in more convenient way, I would treat this as first row, second row, third row, fourth row, and I may treat this as third row, second row, and first row once again. Because if I treat this as third row, I can easily understand where I can stop. I am now focusing on each portion. Remember, whenever there is a diamond given to you, don't focus on the entire diamond in one shot. In order to achieve the code to this, you have to break this into pieces. And the thumb rule I have already given. The you have to divide it into four pieces, means two partitions. Okay, one is vertical, one is horizontal division, the second one is vertical division. Horizontal division has to be done in such a way that the row having most number of elements have to go onto the top half. That's what I have achieved. I have divided that. Similarly, when you come to the vertical division, you have to divide that in such a way that the column having the most number of elements have to go to the left side of the partition. Okay, this is the key, and I will leave this as an exercise to you. And if you are not able to achieve this, let me know in comments. Okay, anytime, and I can share the code to you. Okay, all right. Once again, I'll walk you through the website. This is our website. Have a visit to this. And not only this, we are also okay. Let me first complete this. So mainly what is important for you is resources. Since we have completed session 6, you will be getting the session 6 study course material uploaded to this website very soon, and the next live session date and time will also be updated. So make a note of this website, technolearnit.com, and you can download all the old sessions content from here. All right, and not only that, you can subscribe to all of these channels. Okay, so these channels will be helping you, whatever it is, whether you are on X or whether you are on LinkedIn, whatever channel you are, whatever you follow, just like us, subscribe us, so that you'll be getting all these material, and also primarily every day we are going to publish quiz, and these are all the quiz questions to you, and you practice this will be coming as your YouTube shorts if you subscribe. And all these YouTube shorts, it takes less than half minute for you to read this, and you can just immediately answer that also, and make sure that you have answer also in that. You see, I'm just showing you an example over here. This is quiz question today, that is posted today, and the answer will be highlighted. This is a right answer, right? This is how you will be getting all these quiz questions if you subscribe. So I highly encourage all of you to subscribe to all of these channels and get most of it. And also please go to these resources, download the resources, and make use of the content and build up confidence in your programming. Okay, and stay tuned for your next live session. Till then, take care. This brings us to the end of today's session. Okay, all right. That's all for today. Take care. Bye.